Good morning, Robbie Ferguson here from Immutable. You may know by now, but our mission is to onboard the next billion players onto the blockchain via NFTs. To get there, we need to do three things really right. We need to help support high quality, long-term blockchain games, which use NFTs as a way to deliver better value to players, not just extract rent in the short term. We need to create incredible NFT marketplaces, which create the best places for these players to trade. And most importantly, we need to make sure businesses and consumers alike know the underlying security of their NFTs, lest all of this future digital world is built on a platform like Meta, which can be pulled from under your feet or had 50-cent fees charged at the last minute. We're presenting a quick AMA today on what we've been up to over the last quarter, the marketplaces we've been integrating with, updates on GameStop, OpenSea, and more, including Alpha, the games we've been working with closely and we have upcoming as launches, including Ember Sword and Illuvium, and more insights candidly into our strategy and how we're approaching the space overall. Our goal is to be super open and transparent and honest with these communications, ultimately in the hopes that we can create a community that can help take a truly decentralized platform built on Ethereum to the world and help create a much better form of digital ownership for players worldwide. I hope you enjoy. Please DM me on Twitter, 0xferg, with any feedback you may have. We want to constantly iterate these, and otherwise, enjoy. Thanks.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. This is the first episode from our Executive AMA series, where we invite Immutable's execs to share more strategic insights within their domain and all things immutable. We want to do this as an experiment to give community members better access to our executives. Now, we have a few questions prepared, but we also spent a week gathering questions from the community through our Discord server. To kick this series off, we have our co-founder, Robbie Ferguson, to talk about general updates on Immutable X. Hey, Robbie, how are you?
Hey, Nigel, good to be here and excited to start doing this.
Awesome. Let's not keep the community waiting. Here's the first question for you. What significant updates do you have since Q1, and what lessons are we bringing into Q2?
So it's been a pretty crazy Q1. It's been really, really successful. The entire team is thrilled. I might just share one data point to start off, which is Immutable is less than 12 months old in terms of being a live deployed protocol to the market, but we're currently doing the most NFT trades out of any protocol in the world, L1 or L2. We're beating Ethereum L1, in that we're scaling it, we're beating Solana, Polygon, you name it, in terms of NFT trades. And that's really exciting for us because our vision has always been, how do we scale high utility, high volume NFTs for meaningful applications? And the most meaningful right now is video games, because that's where we see the next billion users to crypto onboarding and having a real reason to trade this stuff, not just being, sold the concept of an NFT without the value behind it. Some other updates. So number one is the core thesis of Immutable is, how do we combine liquidity in the NFT market? How do we create the best prices if you're a game developer, if you are a marketplace, if you are a user, so that you can trade the world's digital assets anywhere and for the best price? And we've greatly progressed this mission over the past quarter. We've gone from having 3 marketplaces integrated with Immutable to over 10, including 2 of the biggest marketplaces in the world. I will do some alpha leak perhaps later on in the video to share a couple of those, but we've obviously already announced our integrations with OKX. I think the 5th largest centralized exchange in the world by volume and one of Asia's largest, with NF Trade, which is one of the top 10 NFT marketplaces in the world. And we have many, many more coming. And that's really important because every single one of those marketplaces integrating is more distribution for every single asset on Ethereum L2. So rather than volume being siloed and orders being siloed into each marketplace or trading venue, where you end up with this incredibly balkanized trading landscape, you have liquidity being connected everywhere. And that's going to become the most important part of the stack to build out and make successful for essentially end players and users over time. We're making exceptional progress with the GameStop marketplace, which will be going live this quarter. We've had a huge number of inbounds to our grant application form, and our entire team has also been over in San Francisco for GDC, pitching and jointly pitching to video games with them. And we also just hit 250 full-time hires. And I want to spend a bit of time on this because a lot of what people don't see behind the scenes with Immutable is the quality and scale of the organization that we're building, which is really important to me. And ultimately, I think that one of the big losses we're getting with the more decentralized corporate structures in crypto today, which have huge benefits. And I'm a big believer in ultimately the thesis of, hey, how can we give away ownership to everyone? rather than having it be in some sort of controlled entity. But there is a loss to it, which is you're losing the quality of the org charts, you're losing the quality of the hires that makes companies really, really successful at scaling traditionally from Web 2. And I want to go over some of the key hires that we've made. So number one, we brought on Justin Hulo this quarter in the studio side of the business. So Justin is coming on as our Chief Games Officer. He will be building out Gods Unchained, Guild of Guardians, and more on that side of the business. He comes over as a general manager of Southeast Asia at Riot Games and is also completely Web3 native. I've been really thrilled with Justin. Please reach out and say hi to him on Twitter. He's BethalAX, and he's been a really, really incredible hire to bring on. We hired Jason Suen, who was an exec at Shopify, who headed up international growth markets and also Southeast Asia over there. Really, really thrilled to have his level of expertise in building go-to-market teams. He's come on as our Senior Vice President Commercial, so running BD, success, partnerships, etc. We also hired Tom Daniel, who is Head of BD Services at Unity, to head up some of our gaming BD efforts. And we're going to be expanding our GTM team, which has gone from 8 people in go-to-market, so selling and helping customers, to over 40 in the last 3 months alone. So we're rapidly scaling here. We're going to double here in the next 3 to 4 months again. We also brought on a couple of more names just to show the quality of people who are bringing on at scale. Sangeeta Sarkar, who is the Director of Product Marketing at Zynga. She's leading Guild of Guardians marketing. Veronica Fu, who launched Wild Rift for League of Legends in terms of marketing globally. She is running marketing for all of Immutable Studio. And this is really, really important because all of the branding expertise, all of the IP, all of the work they're doing on that side of the business is available to every single one of Immutable's partners and customers. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we've never had a major partner launch to a negative piece of reception. And that's because we'll literally come in and say to them, hey, you need to change this aspect of your branding. Like, this is not pro-consumer friendly, not pro-gamer friendly. And so when we take on a high-touch client, which basically means someone which we walk through the process of building on Immutable rather than just having them build by themselves, we take that really, really seriously, because if crypto is going to hit the next 100 million users, we have to make it incredibly obvious what value this is giving to players, rather than just sort of shoving it down their throats or have it be a cash grab attempt, because gamers are the most skeptical audience on the earth. So quarter one has been phenomenal. We've gone from, I think it was 160 people at the start of that quarter. And so really, really thrilled with the progress.
And you've already touched a little bit on this already, but what then are you excited about in the next few months?
We have a lot of our really big games going live in the next few months. And that kind of what blows my mind at the moment is doing the most number of NFT trades without even some of our biggest flagship customers live. Illuvium, I think will be going live pretty soon with their land sale, which we're really, really excited about. We have Ember Sword obviously going live pretty soon as well. And we've got games who are growing rapidly like Planet Quest, Hero with DC Comics, and obviously Marvel through Vivi. Hero has been growing like crazy, so do check them out. They've got all of Disney's IP licenses as NFTs at the moment. And I'm really, really excited for more marketplaces integrating, because every single marketplace that integrates is another proof point of this thesis that ultimately what will happen is people will care less and less about what underlying blockchain things are being built on. And they'll care more and more about, how do I get the best possible liquidity for an asset? What's the best possible user experience? That's ultimately what consumers will care about. And that's why we focus on that open order book so much. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, Google Global Order Book, Immutable, or Open Order Book, Immutable, and have a read, because it's the most exciting thing about what we're building today, not just the scaling side of our technology stack.
What makes Immutable the best? What makes it different from competitors?
Oh, I'll actually add on to quickly the marketplace update as well. We are still integrating with OpenSea. That's ongoing, and we expect that to go live sort of over the next couple of quarters. So I think we gave an official update that on that as a tweet as well, but that is something that's actively undergoing. What differentiates Immutable from competitors? I think there's a few things. So we probably saw really recently a lot of security incidents that went on in Q1. I won't list them all. I'm not here to name and shame. I gave the best of luck to those teams in going through what was a very hard time. But ultimately, the way we differentiated and mitigated against this from day one was we never allowed ourselves to build on an insecure technology stack. It was always essential to us that A, users would always be able to own their assets self-custodially. And B, there could never be any risk of that asset being lied about or being stolen from them. And that's why with Immutable, we don't have to rely on bridges. We don't have to rely on validators. We use ZK rollups or ZK Validium to ensure that when a user transacts on layer 2, it is incontrovertible proof of them doing so. So I think that's number one form of differentiation. But number two form of differentiation is that order book, which I shared earlier. And the reason this is so important is every other scaling protocol is just scaling. They're not focusing on how they can connect liquidity. And our vision for the world is, if you're in Fortnite and you receive a John Wick NFT by winning a match, the place for you to sell that John Wick NFT is inside the context of that game, because that's where it's easiest for gamers to do so. And they also have the most contextual value. And we see the buyers as they should be able to come from anywhere. Buyers should be able to buy off OpenSea or GameStop's NFT marketplace or Token Trove or Mintable or Rareable. And all of that liquidity should be aggregated together, because as soon as you start siloing order books, you start siloing volume and liquidity. So as we get more and more marketplaces, this value basically accrues proportionate to a network effect. So we're really excited about this, and we're going to be at the point where in 3 months' time, Immutable has the strongest both initial and secondary market liquidity out of any scaling protocol on Earth. And that's a really, really powerful value proposition for games.
In that case, if that's going to happen in 3 months, what is your one goal that you want to achieve by the end of 2022? Or do you have a 2022 theme for Immutable?
The end of 2022 theme for Immutable, look, I won't give an exact number for 2022, but Immutable's overarching goal and what every employee is working towards is, how do we get 100 million unique traders on Immutable? And after that, it'll go to 1 billion. But the goal is, how do we bring as many people onto the blockchain, in particular Ethereum, as possible? And our first bet is gaming is going to be the way to do that. And I think that's literally just one breakout hit. So that could happen this year, it could happen next year, but that's what everywhere is working towards. And we certainly want to be in the many billions of volume by the end of this year, which we're currently on track to achieve.
How do you see the short term of Immutable versus the long-term prospects of Immutable? What are you excited about in the short term versus the long term?
So I think it's a really important balance to be struck, because if you just focus on short-term flash in the pans, you don't end up constantly and inexorably building toward a single goal, which is, how can we bring the best and highest quality video games onto Immutable such that we onboard the next billion users onto the blockchain? But it's also really important to have these short-term wins. And so we've done a lot of thinking over the last quarter. And what we've merged with is a very kind of clear strategy for gaming, which is, we're focusing the vast majority of our time on indie and mid-market gaming publishers. So anywhere between sort of, $10 million in size up to even a few $1 billion in size. But they're not the largest game companies in the world. And they're going to be projects which deploy much, much faster. And that's because we think that the next breakout hit, the next Gods Unchained, the next Guild of Guardians, the next Axie Infinity is going to come from these mid-market studios who really embrace and understand Web3 at their core. And that means we can get that GMV and volume earlier. Projects like Book Games have been really invaluable in showcasing the thesis of, hey, Ethereum L2 is here today. It's working. It's delivering literally hundreds of millions of dollars in secondary volume for a single project. And I think it's a really amazing proof point. And we definitely want to balance those interests of short and long term. Everyone knows, blockchain is a warring industry right now, and we have to be able to step up to the plate and showcase the value that ETH L2 can deliver over, other L1s who are just spending huge amounts of money in marketing budgets. And we are stepping that up as well. So I think expect a lot more from us in the short term over the next 3 to 6 months, but know that we're constantly moving towards this one long-term goal of bring the best and biggest blockchain games onto Immutable, which, if you look at the top 5 games out of the top 10 games building on the blockchain today, more than half of them are literally on Immutable today, whether it's Ember Sword, Illuvium, Planet Quest, Guild of Guardians, Gods Unchained, Congregate. And so that's what we're really excited to keep doing, because those will be the games that matter. Like, gaming is a power law, and the biggest games are going to dwarf the number of users and transactions that everything else has combined.
Thanks for sharing that, and excited to see both the short-term wins as well as the long-term prospects of Immutable. Now, moving on to the community questions. So we compiled a list of things over the week. The community was sending out some questions for us. The first is from Humi. How will Immutable support millions of players in the future?
Immutable's uptime, if you're transferring NFT assets, is over 99.9%. The closest competitor who offers scale is below 98%. So we're basically nearly 2 orders of magnitude better than the closest competitor in terms of resilience and uptime. And that's incredibly important because when you get 100 million players, it's not good enough to have a game that has to be limited to 75 transactions per second, or a blockchain that slows and breaks or becomes expensive. It's really, really important that if we're going to onboard the next billion users, they're able to use it at scale instantaneously and without fees. And so we're ready to support millions of players today. But how do we support billions of players, which we're not quite there yet, and no one is in terms of TPS? We have a strategy which we'll be sharing, I think, next month from our CTO, Alex, around how we're going to be able to scale across many of these on our current architecture. So really, really excited to talk to that when it comes out. But right now, we're pretty much ready for anything that the blockchain is delivering.
Awesome. And connected to that is serving these people across multiple marketplaces. You mentioned that there were 4 major markets that we're integrating with. Could you give us a little bit of alpha on who that is?
Yes. So one of them rhymes with snareable. If you can figure that out. I was on a panel with one of their PMs the other week, and they were hinting at it, and we've aligned. We can do a bit of that. A formal announcement to be shared soon. We also have obviously NF Trade and OKX, which have gone live, but we have many, many more major ones, which I'm excited to be sharing soon.
And one of these everybody knows is GameStop. From Wally's world, the question is, when is GameStop's NFT marketplace actually going to be operational?
Yeah, so Immutable's integration with GameStop as its preferred partner should be going live in Q2, which we're really excited about. So we'll be powering their trading directly on their website. You'll be able to trade NFT assets on both all of our existing content, so Gods of Chain, Guild of Guardians, Illuvium, any assets live on IMX that day will instantly become tradable on GameStop's marketplace. But we also have a huge amount of inbounds that we're working with to create their games with. And they'll be minting on Immutable by the APIs and then using GameStop as the marketplace for their distribution. There'll be other wallet partners. We're compatible with multiple wallets and we welcome them. Ultimately, what matters to us is how do we deliver the best possible trading and creation experience for game developers on GameStop. And our APIs, which don't require the creation of smart contracts, mean that it's very, very easy for these mainstream developers to come to GameStop, which we effectively view as one of the largest communities in the world and one of the largest ports of distribution, build on Immutable using these very easy APIs, and then have all of this content kind of be distributed through their funnels and channels. So that's exciting, and expect to be trading on it this quarter.
Connected to that, Escomo asks, how exactly is Immutable and GameStop working together? So from a marketing perspective, for example, beyond the tech.
So we're actively going to market together. As I said, we had more than 30 of Immutable's team over in San Francisco for GDC, which is the largest game development conference in the world, essentially. And we were with GameStop BD team. I personally met the VP of BD at GameStop, where we were jointly pitching games together. So we're working really, really closely. We're obviously doing this with many marketplaces, but we're really excited about the value that GameStop can bring to current and future games, just through the sheer force of distribution and community that they have, and also the 50 million customers that they've built up over their many decades of existence. We have obviously our $100 million joint gaming fund. And we've had a huge number of very, very serious applicants to this, which I'm excited to, as we announce these games, we'll be showing where they come from as well. We've got billion-dollar businesses applying from the gaming sector to this fund at the moment. And we'll always give these grants in line with our existing grant process. So they're not going to be skipping any processes. They're not going to have different vesting schedules. We're only going to do them when we're really confident what that partner is building. But we are based on a lot of this content that's applied so far. And obviously, the idea of the partnership is such that pretty much any game applying to build on GameStop is going to be built on IMX, which is the ultimate goal of what we're trying to deliver to their audience.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the tokens. This one is from Method Meme. Are there any plans for Immutable X token to interact with any other projects like GOG or Illuvium?
Yes. So one of the things I'm most excited about is obviously we have staking going live this quarter. We also will have rewards going live very soon after that. And the goal of rewards is not, hey, have everyone farm NFT trading on Immutable. It's why we've waited to release it until fees are live, because we don't want wash trading. The credibility of our metrics is very important to us. But what we do want is that every single member of any community or game who's trading on Immutable, whether it's inside the Illuvium marketplace, inside the Guild of Guardians mobile app, inside GameStop's NFT marketplace, inside Mintable or Rarible or any marketplace, they should be earning and owning a piece of the protocol that they're trading on. And so IMX rewards is how we fundamentally interact with any project built on Immutable, which is every single time you make a trade, you'll be earning IMX tokens for that trade. There's a fixed daily schedule, so no matter how many users we get, we don't just start sort of shunting tokens out there, but it's really, really powerful because it effectively makes everyone to be able to own a piece of this growth token. So that's what I'm really excited about, and that will underpin any game or project automatically that builds on Immutable.
Speaking of these tokens, how are we approaching token supply and transparency?
If you haven't checked it out, please check out our Notion dashboard, which we released, I think, a few weeks ago on IMX. It goes into all of our supply schedules, our thesis on the future of gaming and NFT trading, our thesis on how this should be distributed to maximize the value to IMX. But we're in an incredibly unique position, which is the vast majority of IMX's supply has been earmarked by the foundation to go purely to consumers and to businesses. So not to incentivize kind of, us or other parties in the ecosystem. And the reason that's so unique is that is a far larger percentage than any other competing protocol. And we plan to use that over the next 10 years to get the best possible games and the best possible projects building on Immutable. So the most important thing is that as we go through that, you all have complete faith and confidence in how we're doing it. You have the ability to make your comments heard around, hey, this is how how the transparency should be updated or the supply schedules should be updated. Feedback is very welcome on that, and the reception has been really awesome from day one. So that's always our plan with you. We have a fantastic community, and that comes with responsibility on our behalf to share and kind of open up our strategy books as much as possible, so we can build the best possible go-to-market for ETHL2 in the world.
Moving on to some of the questions on fees and staking. What is happening with IMX rewards and staking? When is it coming?
End of Q2. I think we announced this. We're feeling confident in this date. Obviously, things can slip, but we're feeling good on this at the moment. So stay tuned.
And regarding the fees of depositing into IMX, for example, or withdrawing, when will we be able to withdraw our IMX directly from a centralized exchange to IMX from Wilson 24?
So we actually had a third party which launched today called LayerSwap, which supports this. We can add a link to the YouTube bio. Obviously, we don't make warranties on behalf of third parties. We didn't directly do this, but they have essentially allowed you to withdraw from any major centralized exchange directly into IMX ETH.
As for other updates, when will there be meaningful progress on basic functions of the Immutable X marketplace from Optus?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've massively increased the staffing on our protocol enablement and kind of marketplace design teams. And the overall vision of the Immutable X marketplace is to serve as an example for other marketplaces to be kind of successfully built upon, and a showcase of what can be built using the Immutable X protocol. So their metrics are not sort of market share of Immutable X, because we'll never compete with the marketplaces being built on the protocol. Their goal is how successful are these kind of other marketplaces. But we've radically increased the resources here, and it's obviously an important and kind of widely used marketplace at the moment. So stay tuned. I think you should see a night and day difference over the next 3 months, and we look forward to exploring things such as open sourcing this over time as well.
And finally, the last question: what is next for Immutable X over the next 3 to 6 months?
Quite a few things. So I'd say expect in the next 3 to 6 months, Immutable to become the strongest port of liquidity for any NFT project or trader in the world. And what I mean by this is you should be able to get the most amount of dollars traded on the secondary market, the most amount of dollars sold on the primary market if you use Immutable over everyone else. And that means it's not only a sort of obvious choice, but it becomes the default choice for people, because right now we're winning on scale, on our ability to offer the best possible user experience, but we also want to offer the best possible liquidity no matter where you are in the world. And as soon as we get these new marketplaces integrated, that will essentially switch on, and true network effects there really begin to emerge. So really excited for that to happen. In 3 to 6 months, you can also expect us to have probably the largest go-to-market team in the space. So we're at 40 people now. We're rapidly bringing this to 100. by bringing on board some of the best gaming BDs in the world, some of the best success people in the world. In particular, we're putting a really strong emphasis on developing essentially full and complete internal playbooks and consulting. So we're taking all, like, out of any scaling protocol in the world, we're the only one to have actually shipped not just one, but two of the blockchain's biggest games, which means we're not just doing this in theory. We're not just bringing on game designers and having them say, here's how the theory of kind of Web3 for gaming and the ownership economy works. We've done this in practice. We've delivered to users. We understand community and branding and how it's ultimately important to deliver to that community over anything at the end of the day, because your reputation is everything. And we're going to start scaling this. So we've hired a huge ton of designers into the go-to-market team themselves. We've hired consultants. And we're basically going to start creating these IP and resources for any one of our partners to use. I really want to become that sort of center of excellence, so that if someone wants to build a Web3 native game and how to be really successful, they shouldn't have to go through all these processes of understanding crypto strategy. It should just be, hey, like the mobile gaming playbook or the social gaming playbook, or how Salesforce made the playbook for B2B sales. Like, it should be as simple as, here's a better way to deliver value to your users. Here's a better way to create a community and a brand. Here's a better way to make an economy that simply works. And we are the ones that are updating that as the kind of market progresses. There will always be advanced users like Illuvium, who is, leading the charge on many of the DeFi aspects of their games. But we really want to be that sort of default port, so that Web2 games can come and succeed in Web3 without having huge mistakes or losing their minds along the way. You can also expect a lot on the studio side of the business. So Immutable Studio is investing huge resources into Guild of Guardians and Gods Unchained. There are some announcements here that will literally kind of be jaw-dropping when we say them over the next 3 to 6 months. So please keep an eye out for these. And I'm sure Justin will let you know when the time becomes right, and Derek Lau and Chris Clay as well. And we'll also have a lot of our key marquee partnerships launched. So we'll have Ember Sword, we'll have Illuvium, very likely launched. I won't speak to their timelines, but I believe that's what they're sort of going for publicly. We'll have major brand marketplaces like GameStop launched, and some other ones that may or may not have been hinted throughout this call. And that's exciting because the best tech games take the biggest amount of time. You'll always have the most GMV or volume when you look at faster projects like PFPs. But we care about building long-term sustainable volume where you can take a customer that has 100,000 users and grow it into 10 million over time, rather than having it be sort of flash in the pan volume. So I think Immutable is exceptionally well positioned right now. There's always more to do, but we have the team required to become the default place for any unique asset in the internet to be traded. And we want to start with gaming.
Awesome. Lots of things to look forward to. It started off strong in the quarter, and yet still more big plans. I think that's pretty much it on the questions, Robbie. Thank you very much for kicking off this AMA series. I hear that we'll be able to steal more of your time in the coming months now. Well, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. I plan on doing regular AMAs, either weekly or bi-weekly in the Discord. Please drop a comment in the YouTube channel if there are things you want to know about. We pride ourselves on our candor, on our communication. We've built a very, very credible teams that I can say, hey, this thing is off. We need to fix this. And we need to do this to achieve where we need to go. So leave any comments or feedback, but plan on spending a lot more time with the community over the next year.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And that's basically it. Once again, this is the first of our Executive Series AMA. We'll be recording and releasing more of these with other executives in the coming weeks. So if you want to keep updated, send your questions to the execs by joining our Discord channel. That's it. See you next time.